let them join us. Great.
Oh
So,
yeah, one other thing, an
yeah,
addendum.
please.
I forgot to mention that I'm in California, where it's 76 and sunny.
Woo. All right. That's a nice temperature. Carlos, can you top that?
Certainly. Thank you, everybody. Hi, everybody. Carlos Armiento with Carlos Food and Wine. I originally wanted to be a chef when I was younger, and I quickly changed my mind after working in a restaurant. However, the food and wine tick always stuck with me. I've been actually a public relations communications professional as a trade, but when COVID hit, especially here in Miami, where we were just totally locked down, I started kind of cooking again and documenting on some of the things I've been doing, and then I applied my PR skills and started approaching wineries and wine distributors. And fast forward to almost 2 years to the date, here I am running Carlos Food and Wine as a side passion venture. And very fortunate to say I've been working with a lot of wine distributors, sometimes with wineries directly from the vineyards. And it's been amazing. My whole goal for Carlos Food and Wine is to get people to give what I call their kitchens a chance. Let's go back to our kitchens. Let's cook some stuff, and also let's pair it with accessible yet fine wines that you can find pretty much anywhere. So I'm here to learn. I've never had Mexican wine yet. I'm excited, and I'm very grateful to David and Max for the opportunity that you guys are giving me. So I have homework to do after we do our thing here. But again, I put my website there. If anybody has any questions, please look me up. I'd be happy to answer or work with you, whatever you guys need. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a fun kind of homework, right? Tasting the wines.
Yes, sir.
All right. Jen, do you want to say hello?
Sure. I'm Jen Martin. I write for Vino Travel, so mostly focus on Italian wines, but I do also love just trying wines from all around the world. I especially love also finding wineries around the world that work with Italian grapes, even outside of Italy. So I'm very excited about this. As I mentioned just briefly, when I joined or logged on tonight, this is my first time with Mexican wine, so I definitely have a lot to learn. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for this opportunity.
Excellent. And Deanna just joined. I think you are our final blogger to say hello, and then we'll kick it over to our presenters.
Thanks for doing this. So my name is Deanna, gang. I have a blog, Wineivore, that's wine and food pairings, and then I also have a recipe website called Asian Test Kitchen. Apologies for not being on camera. I'm in the middle of house construction, so probably going in and out of this. But I'm been to Mexico a few times, and what I find most interesting is that there is a wine industry, but it's really hard to find Mexican wines. I was even recently in El Paso, in the border of Mexico, and you couldn't find Mexican wine. And so I find it really interesting that there's an importer specifically for this region, especially because there's specific parts of Mexico that are, I guess, a little bit higher end for tourists, and there are wine shops that I've been to, but they sell largely non-Mexican wine. So yeah, I just think it's a very burgeoning industry. I'm looking forward to learning more.
Great.
And please remind me later on that you said that, because I can get into that towards the end as we get into everything. So
perfect.
Remind me of that note if I don't bring it up.
Well, that's a good segue. So we're very happy to have Max Murphy from Tozi Imports here to share with us about Mexican wine. And I think it would be great, Max, and we'll sort of do this as we've done a couple of these now, sort of a little back and forth, sort of. I know Max is passionate about it. He could probably talk for 3 hours, but on the topic. But I know folks probably have some other things they might need to get to. But Max, could you start by just telling us your story about how you got interested in Mexican wine and in starting the company?
Yeah. So my background is actually in restaurants. I started as a server. I became a sommelier. I ran beverage programs for steakhouses. And back in 2015, I started dating my wife. And she actually moved to Boston from Mexico. She moved to Boston in February of 2015, which for anyone from Boston, you'll remember that year was the year that we got about 5 snowstorms back to back. And snow was piled up 8-10 feet tall. and she had no winter boots, gloves, or jackets. So that was when we started dating. And I actually moved down to Florida, down to Orlando, to open the Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse there in July of 2015. And so we stayed together. We dated long distance for about 2.5 years. In 2016, she reached out to me and told me that she had just been invited to a wedding in Ensenada. And she asked me if I wanted to go to the wedding with her. And I said, of course. And then she asked me if I wanted to spend a day in the vineyards because it was about 15 miles from the Valle de Guadalupe. And I kind of laughed at her because I wasn't even aware at that time that Mexico made wine. I was a sommelier. I was running a 2,000 bottle wine list in Florida, and Mexican wine was not even on my radar. And so when we went to Florida, or when we went to the wedding, we spent one day in the vineyards. I kind of humored her, and the wines were really, really good. They were good enough that I wanted to put them on my wine list, which to me was like the highest compliment at that time. So when I got back to Florida, I checked with all of our distributors, and there was no Mexican wine in Florida. And then I moved to South Carolina, and there was no Mexican wine in South Carolina. And then I moved back home to Boston. And there was really only one Mexican winery in Boston. And so, we had this thought in the back of our minds that this was an interesting opportunity. I went to go work for a distributor here in Boston to learn the retail side of the business because my entire experience had been restaurants. And in 2018, we got married in San Miguel de Allende in the center of the country. And we had 40 people from my side of the family there. Your typical New England Irish drunken family. If the wine tastes good and it gives you a good buzz, it's a great bottle of wine. They're your real average consumer. And we served Mexican wine at our wedding. And I'm the wine geek in the family. So at the end of the wedding, at that end of the weekend, everybody asked me, where can we buy this? This is so good. I want to drink it at home. And they couldn't get it here. And that sparked something with us. And that kind of confirmed to us that we had a good idea. And we actually spent our honeymoon planning out our business. And we were talking about, our honeymoon was we went to Croatia, we were in Turkey. So we were drinking all of these wines there. We were trying to decide, do we want to represent all of the undersold regions of the world? Do we want to bring in Croatian wines, Turkish wines, Hungarian wines? Or do we want to be hyper focused on Mexico? Because nobody's doing Mexican wine. And that is the direction that we decided to go in. Kenya's passionate. We had no connections at all, but we actually, we just started cold calling wineries, emailing wineries, made a few visits, and started signing people up. And we got our first shipment of wine just in time for the pandemic to start, just for all of our restaurant customers to shut down. But we made it through, and now we're in about 100 accounts in Boston. We actually just picked up distribution in New Hampshire for a number of our wines. So, and getting interest from other states. So yeah,
That's great. And maybe as we progress, Max, I know there were a few questions about finding the wine, so maybe we can circle back to that as we progress. But I know we want to talk about the wine, so maybe do you want to give us a little sort of brief history of wines in Mexico? I know it's kind of interesting, and that would probably set up our tasting flight nicely.
David, can I share my screen? Is that possible?
Yeah, just give me one moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I'd gotten in earlier, this would have been set up. I want to show a map of Mexico, and I can kind of describe where everything is and how everything started.
Sure. Yeah, that would be great. Just give me there you are. Okay. Not quite yet. You are. Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
So I want to share this. This is our little handy map of Mexico that everything, let me, shoot, I shut that, hold on. Sorry.
Oh.
Let's try to wipe something off my computer here. There we go. So our map of Mexico, everything in green.
Oh, Max, just a moment, actually, before you do that.
Yeah.
When I passed hosting on to you, I realized I don't have a big corporate account that I'm running this from. So if you wouldn't mind recording what you're before you do your spiel, because I'm not able to do that because when I made you the host, we'll splice together things after.
It says the recording is still going on.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe we're good.
Still says recording. Yep.
Okay. All right.
So this is Mexico, and this is kind of Mexico's grape growing regions. Everything in green. So in a brief history of Mexican wine, Mexico has actually been growing grapes since 1521. It's been 500 years. And that all started up here in Coahuila. And basically, in 1519, the Spanish expedition led by Cortez landed in Mexico. And by 1521, he had defeated the Aztecs. And British sailors back in olden days drank rum and beer. Spanish sailors and soldiers drank wine. So they actually brought grape cuttings with them, and they began planting them all throughout Mexico. And so Mexico became New Spain. And from 1521 to 1699, Mexico actually became the hub of all winemaking in the New World. And in fact, Mexico was making so much wine that the King of Spain banned all commercial winemaking in order to protect Spanish wineries. You had to import Spanish wines, not grow your own. And the only wineries that were allowed to stay open were wineries that worked for the church. They made sacramental wines for the Catholic Church. Casa Madero was founded in 1597. It is actually the fifth oldest continuously operating winery in the world. So from 1699 until the mid 1800s, you had the rise of the missions. The Franciscans, the Dominicans, missions, and that was actually in 1756. You had the first grapes planted in here, and this is the state of Baja California. This is Ensenada, and the Valle de Guadalupe is right here. The Valle Santo Tomas is just below it, and that was the site of the very first plantings in Baja, the Misión de Santo Tomas. In the late 1800s, Mexico kind of went through a cultural reform, if you will, a little bit less focused on the church and more focused on sort of like it was a social reform, so more secular state. And Bodega Santo Tomas was one of the very first missions to convert into a winery in 1888. And for about 100 years, most of the wine that you got out of Mexico was mass produced, made as inexpensively as possible, and sold for as inexpensively as possible. They were actually producing 4 million gallons of wine per year by the early 1980s. Nothing ever made it to the US or really out of Mexico. It was not high quality. But in the early 80s, Mexico opened itself up to imports. For the very first time, you began finding American wines, French wines, Argentinian wines, Chilean wines on the shelves of Mexican stores. Before that, it was only Mexican wine sold. And so by 1985, 95% of all wineries in Mexico had shut down. It went from over 4 million gallons of wine made to under 1 million gallons of wine produced. And the industry was completely destroyed. And so what rose out of that actually was kind of a really great thing. It was the rise of the boutique wineries. Small, family-owned, focused on quality rather than quantity, that really began to revolutionize the Mexican winemaking. They began using modern techniques. They were much more picky with what grapes they used in terms of single varietals rather than just blending everything together. And so starting in the late 1980s and going on to today, you've had this revolution where people are just really, really focused on quality, unique wines. Because there is only kind of a 40-year modern winemaking history, everything is fully creative. There are no AOC rules, no DOs, there's no label regulation. I mean, there's certain things you have to put on the label, but what I mean with that is that you have really unique blends and very cool combinations of wines. And you have just the ability to make whatever you want. And that's something that I found really exciting about Mexico, because in many places in the world, you don't have that ability. So I think I'm talking, but let's start sipping some wine.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
The first wine I have for you all is the Finkasala Vive Viña Doña Dolores Brut Gran Reserva. So when I sent samples to everybody, because we'd frankly not finalized our lineup and I couldn't send out 6 bottles to everybody. I sent everybody 2 bottles. Everybody got this, and then everybody got a different bottle. Some that are in the tasting and some that are just other cool Mexican wines. So this is essentially a Mexican cava, 50% Xarello and 50% Macabeo, coming from the state of Queretaro, which is right here. Finkasala Vive it's a member of the Freixenet family of wineries, Henkel Freixenet. So they own Mianoto in Italy. They own Gloria Ferrer in Sonoma, Freixenet obviously in Spain, one of the largest sparkling wine conglomerates, if you own the world. But this has been a very independent winery ever since it started in 1979. So in Querétaro, it sits at over 2,000 meters above sea level. It's the central Mexican highlands. There's a huge diurnal shift every single day between 35 and 40 degrees between day and night. It's a very hardy growing region. Very, very arid, very dry, sandy soils. And actually, I want to hear what other people think of the wine first, and then I can keep on talking. Love to hear what you think of this.
Anyone want to chime in? Let's see.
Hey Max, this is Ray.
Hey Ray.
Really, really great value. I mean, at $15, I wasn't expecting a lot, and I was just saying that it's better than some champagnes as far as having a really nice mousse and a complex flavor, and it continues on in my mouth. So kudos to this one. Oh, by the way, when you say something is somewhere, it's not showing up on my screen. I don't know if other people are seeing it. So you
don't see my.
I see a map, but that's
okay.
Look at the arrow. I can see the arrow moving around. It's the
arrow. That's what I mean. It's in the bottom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'll explain where I'm pointing it to so you guys can find it. This is the Querétaro right here. So just to put in for everyone to see, just below that to the southeast is Mexico City. And we're driving about 3 hours northwest to Querétaro. Querétaro is actually the second largest wine producing state in Mexico after Baja. Junipero Serra actually started planting his grapes in Querétaro as he worked his way up to California. So some of the sites of the very, very first plantings were here.
Right. Yeah, I really enjoy this one too. I had it, actually, we had a theme, I think it might have been January for our wine pairing weekend group on sparkling wine from around the world. So I actually had this bottle and it's very good. I think we might have even opened on New Year's. We were just talking about, we've had a few other sparkling wines at a much higher price point, or at least double, if not more recently. And I think this compares very favorably, as Ray was saying, definitely. Max, I know the question, I'm trying to remember, you explained to me a little bit, if for folks that are not here in Massachusetts to get this one, I have the sense this might be easier to find than some of the others we're tasting tonight, or do you want to speak to that?
Within Massachusetts, you mean?
Or outside of Massachusetts, if somebody wanted to find this, is this maybe a little more available potentially, or?
So all of these wines, everything at the tasting today is actually available for national shipping at Urban Grape. I actually saw your email this morning. I'm going to talk to them about the Merlot that we'll have later, because it looks like I saw it was out of stock, but everything else is available there for shipping outside of Mass. And then within Massachusetts, the Stonia Dolores, it's in a lot of places.
I have the list here. Yeah, it's a lot of places, including Burlington Wine and Spirits, is for folks that are in the
Wine Press.
Yeah.
Wine in Fenway, Wine Press, Cereso Market in Brookline, Urban Grape. I'm blanking now. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Do you want to get on to the next? I don't know if there's anything more you want to say about this, or if you want
No, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
No questions. I did have a comment. There's always been this sort of relationship between Mexico and California. And so it was actually really good to hear that, in Mexico, you can kind of do whatever you want to do, because California is very much the same thing. Obviously, we have a lot of AVAs. There are labeling rules, but, if you want to put some Pinot in your Petit Syrah, you can do that here.
Yeah.
It's not like you can do the same thing in Mexico. And I think that's a good thing. That's how you innovate. That's how you find creative stuff. And that's a good thing. So it's good to hear it.
Yeah, they have so a winery that I don't represent, unfortunately. We couldn't come to terms, but they actually made an Albarino Gewürztraminer Viognier blend coming from nearly 7,000 feet above sea level in Queretaro. It was really cool. It was really good.
Yeah, I bet they had some good acid. Yeah.
Great acid. Add that almost that effervescence, that pepper from the Gewürztraminer, and then just this real honeyed rich fruit from the Viognier. It really, really worked. But it's something that you would never, I don't think, find anywhere else. I've never seen anything like that.
Definitely won't find it in the old world for sure.
Right.
Yes. So the next wine we have is Monte, the Sauvignon Blanc. This is 100% Sauvignon Blanc from 70-year-old grapevines in the Valle de Guadalupe, so going to Baja. So I kind of mentioned about in the early 80s, the Mexican wine industry kind of went through this disruption. And one of the very first new wineries to be founded in 1987 was Monte. Monte was founded by 5 families, 5 friends who got together. Their goal was to make the best wine possible, regardless of price. So they started, their first blend was actually Chenin Blanc and French Colombard, which is a popular blend in Baja. And they started with about 1,500 cases. Now they're one of the largest and most renowned wineries in Mexico. They make over 100,000 cases. For our friends in California, LMA Wines, La Mission Associates, imports Monte in California. And you can order these wines off her website. You can buy them direct from her, or obviously through the Urban Grape as well. This is actually our top selling wine here in Massachusetts since we've started. It's really, really, to me, it's very clean. It's got these really nice tropical notes, almost like pineapple and guava on the nose, a medium body that stands up to food, but it's also got really nice acidity. It's almost, to me, a cross between a Napa Sauvignon Blanc with the hint of the tropical notes, and then also a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc with just a little bit of grapefruit and citrus, the lemon. And yeah, so
Max, I've had this, I'm assuming what I've had, this is 2021. I've had, I think it must have been an earlier vintage. Anything about this? I feel like, it's been a while, but my recollection, this leans a little more to that New Zealand style, a little more of that grapefruit than I recall, but you taste this wine more. So I don't know if you see that, if there's anything about the vintage or anything that you might comment upon.
So we started with the 2018 vintage, which you would have tried first.
Okay.
In between 2018, 2019, and 2020, they were all a little bit more tropical. I do find the 2021 to be more citrus. It was a rainier season actually in Baja. And so, there was rain coming, so they actually picked a little bit earlier. The harvest in Mexico can range anywhere in Queretaro and Guanajuato, the two southernmost states. They can be harvesting in July to August, to Baja, where you can go in early September. Baja has actually the Valle de Guadalupe and Baja have a very interesting climate. I should have mentioned. It's located just about at the 30th parallel. It's a Mediterranean growing climate. It's actually at a point where I'm going to show, actually, I have my map here, another map. Are you seeing this Valle de Guadalupe map?
No.
Nope. Let me.
You might need to stop share and then share again, maybe.
Yeah. Stop share and screen share. So this is the Valle de Guadalupe, and this is a map of wineries here.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So the port city of Ensenada is here on the bottom left. Hey, easy, Luna. Sorry, my dogs are barking. 15 miles northeast, you have the Valle itself, which runs kind of southwest to northeast. In the Luna, easy. In the western side, you have these very low limestone hills, and in the east, you have a very high set of mountains. And so the ocean currents actually play a huge role in this. The Arctic current actually comes down far west of California and the coast, comes down, and then it makes almost a U-turn. Luna, please. It makes a big, yes, makes a big U-turn back up along the coast, going through Ensenada and back up the California coast. So the water in Ensenada Harbor is actually significantly colder than the water in San Diego, Los Angeles, or even San Francisco. You actually, sorry, I just opened the window. You actually cannot swim in Ensenada Harbor, which is very interesting. The water is so cold, you can't swim in the harbor. It's great for shellfish. It's actually where they, sorry. Let me take this out of here. You actually cannot swim in Ensenada Harbor. It is so cold. And they make lots of shellfish, lobster, oysters, clams, mussels. And so every morning you have a very, very thick early morning fog that rolls over those hills in the west. And they get at about 6:30 in the morning, they roll over the hills and they get trapped by the hills in the east. They get stuck in the valley, and it doesn't burn off until about 9 or 10 in the morning every day. So as hot as it is in the Valle, it actually, this thick, cool fog really moderates the temperatures. This site is at a point where two tectonic plates meet. That's what is making the hills. So the soil is actually a mix of granite, sand, and clay, and it really just pops up randomly throughout the valley. And so it makes it a really, really interesting wine grape growing area. It's actually it's considered Mexico's Napa Valley, for lack of a better term. There's about 150 wineries in the Paella now. Okay, I'm gonna let the dogs out. Hey girls, you want to go outside?
I was thinking maybe they were looking for some wine, Max.
They probably are. Oh, there's kids playing in the neighbor's yard. That's what it was. Oh well. So, anyways, some peace and quiet. Sorry. So yeah, so Monte Chaney, the Sauvignon Blanc is one of their mainstays. It's actually on the wine list, claim to fame at the French Laundry. And it's been our top selling wine so far since we started. So,
Questions or comments on this? Otherwise, it's quiet here now. Or do you want to move on to the first red? I need to get that one. Get mine.
So for the first red, we have Paso de Serra, the Previo, 2016 Paso de Serra Previo red blend. This is a blend of 70% Malbec, 20% Merlot, and 10% Syrah. And we are actually back in Queretaro. Back in central Mexico, about the 21st parallel, and nearly 6,000 feet above sea level. Paso de Serra actually is the very site of some of Junipero Serra's earliest plantings, his recorded plantings. It's a husband and wife team, Renata and Gus Alvaro. Renata runs the winery and Gus runs the vineyards. They actually got their start as farmers growing grapes for Freshenet, for Finkasala Vive. And for many, many years, they would sell their entire crop to Finkasala Vive. And then starting in 2012, they began making their own, working with Freshenet to make their own wines. And they have Freshenet's really, really great in this region because they support everybody. They lend out their winemaking facilities, their equipment, because, I'm sure if you're trying to start a winery and you have to buy all the machinery and buy everything, it makes it really, really difficult. And instead, Freshenet just loans it out to everybody. When we make our shipments out of central Mexico, they actually allow us to use their facilities to consolidate all of our shipments at the winery. All of the small wineries bring their wines there so we can pick it up from a central location. They're very, very helpful to everybody, and Paso de Serra is one of their closest partners. So Paso de Serra makes this Previo red blend, which is their younger vines. And then they have single varietal Malbec, Syrah, and Merlot as well. So what do you all think? This is Paso de Serra. Oh, I'm sorry, Terry. Paso de Serra Previo. It's a 2016. And it is 70% Malbec, 20% Merlot, 10% Syrah. This should retail generally around, $20, $20, $22. I should probably actually be saying that for all the wines. The Viña Doña Dolores goes generally here for between $15 and $18. The Monte Chaney Sauvignon Blanc for between 20 and 22. And then the Previo also 20 to 22.
Hey,
I really-
Max, a question for you.
Absolutely.
I know that I'm thinking about Junipero Serra, so I'm imagining that he would have been planting the Mission grape, maybe brought over from Spain, I'm not sure. And Mission is seeing a bit of a revival here in California, and I know that's still, being made into a varietal wine in South America. Anybody making it into a varietal wine in Mexico?
So Santo Tomas makes a Bodega Santo Tomas, which we're not trying today. They make a red blend that is the Mission blend. It's Tempranille, Carignan, and Mission in equal parts. And they actually make a Mission Blanco white wine.
Wow, okay. That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Those are the only two that I'm aware of, or the only two wines that I know of right now. But that's not to say that they're not there, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Absolutely. So that actually, I want to bring up sort of now I'm just remembering. So thinking about Deanna brought up, Mexican wine and not really finding it in Mexico. The Mexican wine market has really kind of evolved in the last 10 years or so. In 2010, per capita, people were drinking 250 milliliters of wine per year. That's about a glass. By 2020, it was up to a liter. That's mostly concentrated in big cities in Monterey, in Mexico City. It's the younger people. Kenya, for example, her friends, when they went to college, when they were just out of college, when they were all young professionals, everybody drank cocktails or beer. And now, as our friends reach, into their 30s, they go to dinner and they order bottles of wine. They do wine pairings. But Mexican wine the Mexican government does not make it easy for the wineries to sell their wine in Mexico. For wines sold in Mexico, they actually need to pay 48% taxes on the wine. It's not done by volume like it is here in the US. It is done on the cost of the wine. It's an additional 48% tax. So a $10 bottle becomes a $15 bottle, a $100 bottle becomes a $150 bottle. And that definitely has a big impact over there. When they export wines, the taxes get dropped down to, I think it's 16%, because they know that we have to transport it and pay customs. So the government gives us a break on that, but it's still very expensive.
It's interesting. Yeah, I like this blend. Just going back to the wine itself, I tend to usually have Malbec as a single varietal, so you don't think of it being blended. But I don't know if it's the Syrah I'm getting that could definitely, even though it's not a lot, it's good. There's enough there to give it, I don't know, a little more heft, a little more nuance than a typical Malbec might.
From their single varietal Syrah, it's very. It's like juicy. It's got great acid, high acid that, and it's a fruit forward. And then actually the Merlot here too, really, I think gives this wine some heft as well. It's a fun wine, and for the price point, I think we can't really beat it in our portfolio.
Yeah. So not to rush, but what is next?
Next up, Vinos del Marquez Tempranille, 2016. So Vinos del Marquez is also in Queretaro, about 5,900 feet above sea level. Mauricio Rodriguez is one of the real kind of young hotshot winemakers in Mexico. He consults at many, many wineries throughout the country. He actually consults at Don Leo, which in 2021, their 2012 Don Leo Cabernet won #1 Cabernet in the world at a Cabernet competition in France, which was big news for the Mexican wine industry. And this is his baby, this winery. Over 5,900 feet above sea level. Vinos del Marquez grows Nebbiolo. It makes several Nebbiolo wines. They make this awesome high elevation Tempranille and Nebbiolo blends. So I wanted to showcase this to you all. And let me know sort of what you think, David or Ray, as you all taste your way through it. Very, very small production winery, only about 2,800 cases made. They are sold only in Mexico right now. And then obviously with us here in the US, we're the first, really for actually, besides Monte, Chaney, all the wines that you're going to try, we're the only US importers, and only available really to start here with us. So, yeah.
Nice.
In terms of the varietals that they're growing in Mexico, or are they kind of doing a little bit of everything? Is there one that's more predominant?
So what I loved, actually, when I went in 2016, is we went to a winery, to Vinicava, and Vinicava had their experimental acre. They had Viognier growing next to Nebbiolo, growing next to Syrah, next to Albarino, growing next to Chardonnay. I mean, it was just about everything. They're still figuring out what works best. And that to me is really, really cool. In the center of the country, I'm seeing a lot of Malbec. I'm seeing a lot of Syrah. In Baja, a lot of Cabernet and Bordeaux blends. There is a Baja, there's a Nebbiolo clone in Baja that's being made. That seems, there's a little debate on it right now if it's true Nebbiolo. And I know that some people are doing some testing on it. But or it could be some a crossbreed or blend, but it's really kind of all over the place right now. There's a little bit of everything. Actually, I was going to say the one thing that I had not seen was Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir, I'd only tried 2 of them. One of them was just not very good. It was a bad attempt. The other one was really, really good, but the winemaker told me he tried making it for 5 years, and this was his first successful vintage. And after 5 years, we actually went down. We were in Mexico last weekend, and I saw him again, and we tried his 2020 and 2021, 2020 in a tank and 2021 in a barrel. And the 2020 was okay. The 2021 was looking phenomenal. So we'll see how that comes out in the long run. And we actually went to another winery that's they do natural wines. And they had a Pinot Noir that was outstanding as well. Those were the first 2 examples that I've really seen that have been successful, in my eyes anyways.
It's interesting. One thing I noticed, Max, I didn't check on this bottle in particular, but just in general, like looking at this lineup, the alcohol content is relatively low, which was a little surprising. Thinking of Mexico, of course, being a fairly warm country, but I don't know if it's some of those climatic factors that you're, with Baja, like that you're talking about, or is that an intentional that they're trying to keep it more food friendly or anything?
So in Baja, I find typically as you're in Baja up here, you're getting higher alcohol wines. Okay. In the center of the country, in Queretaro, excuse me.
Bless you.
Excuse me, thank you. Queretaro, Guanajuato, Aguascalientes, and Zacatecas. They're really, really high elevation wines, and they're much lower in alcohol. I mean, we have reds that are down 12%,
Wow.
12 to 13.5. I don't think we have anything over. I think the Merlot that we're going to try after this is probably just about the highest yet, just under 14.
It's like Northern Italy or something.
It's really, yeah, it's between 5,500 and 7,500 feet of elevation. Yeah.
Great. What do you have next for us?
Next up, we have the Vinos Guaname Merlot 2018. Guaname is short for Guanajuato, Mexico. This is a family of cattle ranchers. The Torres family. Elias is the father, and then he has three sons, Elias, Juan Pablo, and Alejandro. They are your, if you thought of a stereotypical Mexican cattle rancher, that's who you would see. If you actually go on our website, we have a photo of Kenya and I standing with two of them on our front page. Big guys wearing big hats, flannel shirts, jeans. They own Pajaro Azul Cattle Ranch, and they actually sell a lot of meat here in the U.S. And so they're in Guanajuato, which is just alongside Queretaro. It's actually a very, very small wine growing region, but is really up and coming now, especially around the city of San Miguel de Allende. And they're a sustainable winery. So they use no herbicides, no pesticides, very, very, very limited drip irrigation only is needed. If they need fertilizer, they have an entire cattle ranch to feed their vineyards. And they are, yeah, very small production and very, I think, high quality wines. They do a line of single varietal wines. I know I sent out a Malbec to somebody, and we have the Merlot here. And to me, this is a big, full-bodied Merlot. It's not a big fruit bomb. It's got some old world notes to it. I think because of the elevation, I think just makes it very, very interesting. And I'd love to hear what you all think.
I got a head start on this last night. You might have seen I posted it with, it was surprisingly good pairing. I had red cabbage risotto with this. And one thing that you've encouraged me to do, Max, is not just, I mean, obviously, you know, this lineup would pair great with a lot of Mexican dishes, but not restricting yourself to that, because it's very food friendly. And this red cabbage risotto, you know, a lot of funky flavors in it, but somehow it just, there's enough cheese and stuff to make it work. And I really enjoyed it. It's still drinking nicely tonight.
Nice. Well, so it's funny you bring that up. I actually have made it a very big point for us, that we don't want to get pigeonholed. We don't want Mexican wine to be only stuck and looked at for Mexican restaurants. So since we've started our company, we've actually made a huge effort to, if a Mexican restaurant kind of reaches out to us, obviously we'll sell to them, but we really focus on steakhouses, Italian restaurants, oyster houses, seafood restaurants, Japanese restaurants. We don't want people to only think of Mexican wine as being served with Mexican food. And I think we've been kind of successful with that here in Boston. You know, focusing on wine and cheese shops, gourmet food stores, the like. Yeah.
I know there's some pairing happening at the Schaefer's. I don't know if they're in the middle of eating or at some point
I saw Ray standing by the camera. That's
All right.
See if he,
Any
did you
any
have
thoughts, Ray, or any updates on the pairings happening there, or everybody have their mouth full? And actually, as you think about that, any of the bloggers, I don't know if anybody's done their pair. I know some folks on the call have a sample or two from you, Max, and are either planning a pairing or may have already done one. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in what they're thinking of doing, or if they already did something.
Yeah, this is Carlos. I'm still waiting to open both of the wines, but this is useful information because I really want to tackle the non-traditional pairing. So what Max was mentioning, I definitely agree. I don't the great thing about wine is that if you really like it, you can pair it with any doesn't have to be from the same country. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can, but I'm really looking forward to opening them and trying them. But they're nice. They're being chilled as we speak.
Nice.
And actually, I sent because I emailed you today. Did I send you the Nebbiolo or the Tempranillo? I think earlier.
I got the Nebbiolo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
So I'm looking forward to that one too.
And a 10% Malbec blend. 90.
Correct. Yes.
So kind of cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I haven't paired. I have the bubbles as well as the Paso de Cerro. So I'm gonna go with. Tomorrow is for the food bloggers. Tomorrow is Paella, National Paella Day.
Oh, all right.
So I'm making a seafood paella. I'm gonna pair it with the bottle of bubbles.
Oh, that sounds
That should be
awesome.
good.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with Paso de Cerro yet. We'll see.
Actually, the Freshen Out with the bubbles, they do on Memorial Day weekend, they do a huge paella fest. And they actually bring in people from all over Mexico, and they do a paella competition. Because we were just there last weekend, and so they're telling us about it, and they invited me down to be an international judge.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
But what's really, really cool is that the paella, the winner that they choose, they actually send on a trip to Spain to represent Mexico at like a world paella competition.
Wow.
So they do something very cool for everyone to come bring their wares, and then somebody gets a free trip to Spain afterwards.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah. So paella with the sparkling wine it's just funny you say that because it's like a perfect pairing.
That does
It
sound
is,
perfect.
yeah. And that was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
You make paella a lot, Martin, or is this gonna
I
be
do. Yeah.
Nice.
Paella is a favorite dish of mine, and in particular, seafood paella, because we eat seafood throughout the year. So we kind of we're saving the shells of the lobsters and the shrimp, and then we
Oh,
that homemade stock, and that makes all the difference.
oh yeah, nice.
Yep.
Easy cool. Dogs are back in, but hopefully they'll be
All
quiet now. Even if they're easy cocoa.
Great. So
So
I think we have one more
have
wine
one,
to share, huh?
Monte, Chaney, Cabernet Sauvignon. So
Looking forward to trying this. I don't think I've tried any of their reds. I also have had that other, what was it, the Chenin
the
Colombard.
Chenin Colombard. Yep.
That was
we used
good.
that one before. So this is their cab. You get 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. Not 70-year-old grapevines, unfortunately. The Viña Cristal vineyard for the Sauvignon Blanc is really kind of unique and special, but this is kind of one of the backbones, of their winery. I get some eucalyptus, I get some mint, and it actually drinks, to me, a little similar to a California cab, in that you get, I don't know, to me, when I would talk to my restaurant servers, I would tell them to look for the eucalyptus, and that's something I really get. This is also, again, either through the Urban Grape or LMA wines for people in California who want to try it, who would be looking for it. So what do you think, David?
Yeah, I definitely agree more a New World style. It's bright, the really bright fruit. It's easy. Yeah, easy. Some Cabernets, you definitely feel like you need to have it with a steak or something similar. But this is very pleasant, just easy, pleasant sipping on its own, and probably be a little more versatile than some cabs. I'm curious. I don't get a lot of the oak and stuff. I'd say a fresh, kind of vibrant taste is the way I describe it. Yeah.
Nice. Ray, are you there? Nope.
They're
Yeah.
chowing down, I think.
I know. I'm jealous. I actually I bought 2 steaks that I was going to cook for after this. But if it keeps on raining, I don't know if I'm going to want to go outside to cook them. So we'll see.
Oh, nice. I was actually thinking I have ribeyes are on sale at Whole Foods, so I got a couple I think I'm gonna make it tomorrow. Actually, dinner plans later. So, but I think save some test out a couple of these reds with some ribeye with mushrooms, mushroom sauce.
That sounds good.
Delish.
That sounds really good.
Mm. I know we said not to do the traditional pairings, but especially we're not that far away from Cinco de Mayo, I think you pointed me on to the Sauv Blanc that we had earlier with guacamole. Oh, so good.
So actually, when we started up, so we got our first wine, I said in October 2019, and we actually, up until pandemic, when we were doing live tastings, a lot of people, when they do a wine tasting, they serve meat and cheese, and we would serve it with chips and guac because we actually thought the acid in the Sauvignon Blanc worked really, really well with guacamole.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our little quirk that we always did for everybody to, and everyone enjoyed it. So how often do you get guacamole when you have a wine tasting? So
right. Yeah, that was good.
So I have a quick
Sauvignon Blanc
question.
is our go-to with guacamole for me too.
sure.
I've always loved it with guacamole.
Hold on.
Yep.
So what was the question?
This
I
for
was saying
Max.
that Sauvignon Blanc
Oh.
with guacamole is a go-to for me as well.
Is
Oh,
it
yeah.
nice?
Oh yeah,
Nice.
no, I've been doing that for years, and
I
need
thought
to
I was
work with
original.
So Tara, are you part of the Sunday supper folks? I know you are, David.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to actually I did the wine pairings for Sunday supper for gosh,
I remember that.
a couple
Yeah.
years. And anytime some guacamole showed up, I would recommend a Sauvignon Blanc for sure.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Carlos, you had a question?
Yes. So all these wines featured today, they're available through Max's distribution. Like we want to order them.
So in Massachusetts, unfortunately, I am only allowed to sell to to licensed distributors and retailers and restaurants. So
Okay.
I can't ship to consumers. That's why, knowing that you all were from out of state, I set up a lineup with wines from Urban Grape. And that way, because they're a retailer that has the ability to ship nationally.
Are you by chance looking for a Florida
Yes.
distributor?
Absolutely.
I might be able to help. So
Okay.
I'll see if I can find something, and then whatever offline, I'll send you some notes.
Please, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll email you. That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, we're always looking for distribution. We basically, our 5-year plan, what it was year 1, 2020, learn how to sell Mexican wine. I actually really thought, when we first got our shipment of wine, that we would, I went straight to the neighborhoods in Boston that are more Mexican. A lot of like Kenya's friends and some of the family live in East Boston, Chelsea. We got into 7 stores within a month, 2 weeks. Those 7 stores have never ordered again. There's just not an interest. What we found our niche to be is gourmet food stores, wine and cheese shops, somewhere where the owner of the store or the manager in the store who tastes the wine is also the person working and selling the wine. Going to a store where somebody's just sitting behind the cash register and, you know, collecting credit card payments isn't a salesman, and Mexican wine isn't known yet. So that's why stores like the Concord Cheese Shop, Berman's, Urban Grape, Leary's up in Newburyport, for us in Massachusetts, so, you know, those types of stores where someone can guide you through the process and give a recommendation. Those are the stores that we do well in.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. So you would never find any of these like in Total Wine. I know it's a silly question, but as far as availability,
so
these.
As a distributor, Total Wine is very much a double-edged sword. Total Wine can do a lot of volume, but Total Wine will also undercut every other customer that you sell to. And so it's like you get one good customer, but you can really hurt yourself with a lot of others. These wines, they haven't shown any interest in Mexican wine yet, and I'm focused more on independent stores for myself.
Okay.
I used to be a sales representative for Horizon Beverage, and Total Wine was one of the accounts that I called on. So for the moment, I mean, I will sell to them obviously, but I'm not soliciting them to start.
Okay. So the reason I ask, and again, if this is a long-winded answer, we can talk about it offline. I won't take people's time here, but when I will pair this, I always like to get, you know, at the end of the posting, people are always asking where can I find this, or where can I buy it, or, you know, so I try to give, whether it's a distributor, have the link or something. I don't know what you might recommend me.
I mean, I would love if you would link to me personally, to Tozi Imports, and then to Urban Grape, because for anybody in Miami or in Florida, or Missouri or California, should be able to get the wine from Urban Grape. But yeah, but obviously, and yes, Terry, I would also be very interested in Missouri as well.
So you're in the St. Louis area, Terry?
Later. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of the hope. You know, I think an advantage of doing this session in advance of when we write our blog posts in April is, you know, Matt, you know, sometimes I think we're working with some bigger operations that are providing us samples for our events, but, you know, Max is, you know, a startup business that started at the beginning of the pandemic, you know, trying to work with smaller shops and restaurants and stuff like that. So, you know, it's kind of a little bit more of a grassroots way to market, you know, but I think, you know, the bloggers that are involved in our network, we're obviously passionate about our subject, but also have probably some connections with local distributors, local restaurants, local shops. And that's, you know, sort of a nice way to spread the word, you know, in different markets throughout the country.
Yes. Well, thank you.
That's the theory anyway. We'll
knock on wood. We're trying to, you know, so, and somebody asked or mentioned early on in the call, in the introductions, there are 3 other importers working with Mexican wine right now, 4. And they're all based in the West Coast, either California or Washington State. And they almost exclusively focus in Baja. There's La Mission Associates, which I've mentioned before. They sell only wines from Baja. Michelle Martin, she's one of our partners. She actually supplies us with a lot of our Baja wines because she has such a good selection. There is a company called La Competencia I think he's based in San Francisco. And he has always been Baja. He actually just started working in central Mexico as well. There's Beso Imports out of Seattle. that works only in Baja. And then there is Back Alley Imports out of San Francisco that is also Baja, but they do more spirits, more Mexican spirits with a little bit of wine. So when everybody else was focused on Baja, we kind of decided to zig when everyone else was zagging and focus on the center of the country. Because right now, the average person in the US, there is no distinction between Baja, Queretaro, Zacatecas, Guanajuato. Nobody knows the difference. They just want good wine, and it's just Mexican wine. So, and then me personally, when I was always working in restaurants, I always favored that mountain fruit. To me personally, that's what I enjoy drinking. And I found the ability to get that in central Mexico. So we represent some wineries in Baja directly. We're adding more. But the bulk of our business has been central Mexico, actually, for our direct imports. But yeah, so there's Tozi Imports, La Competencia, Beso, La Misión, and Back Alley, the 5 sort of Mexican importers in the US. Everybody else is on the West Coast, and we're in the East Coast.
Yeah, that's good. Seems like specializing probably was a good call. Like, I mean, that's a pretty small number of players with some great wine. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, I love wine. I love Mexico. Kenya's from Mexico. She's passionate. It was kind of the perfect business for us to start.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if the Schaefers can hear us. I know we probably won't be on a lot longer. Any updates on the pairings? Any highlights there? I mean, it's still too busy enjoying it.
I don't even see a face.
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
There we
Lori.
go. Report.
We want to report on all those pairings, Lori. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, still muted.
Yeah. Well, we'll get it. We'll get I can always connect with them later and get a follow-up report. Well, that's good. Does anybody have any other questions for Max? And I think, I'm not sure if everyone has your email, or did you email people? It's okay.
I emailed everybody except for Terry, which I actually just found out today. You signed up on the sheet, I guess, after it was shared with me.
That was my bad. Sorry about that.
No, David, could you send me the sheet? I want to actually send her a couple of bottles.
Great. Yeah. Get her info.
But everybody else I've sent text sheets to for the wines that I sent you. Yeah, I do have everybody else's contact information. Perfect. That's mine there in the chat.
Yeah, and then also, as you're tasting, tag Tozi Imports on social and use the Wine Pairing Weekend hashtag, which is, I'll type it in, Wine Pairing Weekend. I think the bloggers here know that pretty well. We've been going at it for a while. But
Can you use that for some things?
Oh, and Max, just, I think you guys are on Twitter. I know I see you more on Instagram, more active there, but we do have a live Twitter chat on April 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
If y'all want to hop in, we'll be sharing, because it sounds like probably the majority of folks that are involved probably haven't done their pairings yet, but the grand reveal will come that week, that week leading up to April 9th, and then we'll be chatting about it.
April 9th at 11 a.m. I've
put
that in my calendar right now.
Cool.
Now I apologize. I don't know if you all know, FedEx is not always the easiest to ship with.
That's an understatement. They're the worst.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was,
hey Max, do you want to hit stop recording at this point?
I sent out a lot of olive oil in the last few weeks. That's all. Olive oil.
Olive oil. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of wineries produce olive oil. At least I don't know if they do that in Mexico, but definitely Italy.
Actually, there are several wineries. Wine Factory in Baja made a nice olive oil when we visited them in September. Freshenet made really good olive oil.
Really?
Actually, they gave us a bottle that we've been using now for the last. We only use it when we make like a caprese salad. and we just drizzle a little over the top or a burrata salad, and they made a very, very, very nice olive oil.
Cool.
But yeah, a lot of the wineries are actually kind of they're such small operations, and a lot of them are just farmers, so they'll make different marmalades and jams and anything you can think of, they'll make.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Quick
Good.
question, going back to the taxes, why do you think that the government doesn't want people to drink wine? Is it, or do you think it's the beer and tequila industry?
No, I think the taxes are probably the same for everybody. I know in spirits it's the same. I don't know about beer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's just taxes tend to be really high in Mexico, just in general. It's actually a kind of a funny thing with Kenya and I. I always complain about taxes, and she says, well, she enjoys paying her taxes here because she sees that our roads, are generally pretty well taken care of, and we, the buses generally run on time, and we get the services that we pay for the most part. So as much as I complain about them, for her coming from Mexico, she actually, I don't want to say she enjoys it. I hope she doesn't enjoy it, but she appreciates what we get for them.
Right. Oh, that's good. Any other questions for Max? Oh, go ahead. Someone was trying to get in. No. Oh, good. Oh, everybody's frozen. Oh,
Cool. Well, Terry, please email me and email me your information so I can send you a couple of sample bottles so you can be involved. I'll try to get those out on Monday.
great.
Your address. If there's a business address I could ship to, that's much better. Just email me. It's in the chat.
Otherwise, you'll have to send her some olive oil, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey, I just
Nice.
want to say thanks for the wine, Max, and David. Thank you for putting together the Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for tuning in. Thanks, everyone.
Martin, Deanna, Carlos, Terry.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you so
Yes.
All
much.
right. Have a good evening, everyone. All right.
You too.
Yeah.
Good sign off.
Bye.
Good night.
Carlos, I'll be in
Take
touch with you as well. Thank you so
You
much.
got it.
All right,
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Wait, what's cheers in Spanish? My Spanish.
Salud.
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 Okay, there we go. Okay.
Ciao.
That's all right.
Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye.